to my kitchen table. I'm Rachel. Today I'm going to be making something quick. It's a weeknight and I just want to get dinner on the table. So I'm going to make a thick cut spice rubbed pork chop, some roasted asparagus, and some rice flavored with hibiscus powder and some other great things. I have 2 cups of water coming to a boil now, and in here I have 1 teaspoon of each garlic powder, onion powder, ground ginger, ground coriander. I have oregano, and that's dried oregano. I've got a teaspoon of hibiscus powder and about a half a teaspoon of salt. And all of these are going to go in here to flavor my water. So right now I have 2 cups of water getting ready to boil. I want to go ahead and add all of my spices in there now. And then I'm going to add about a tablespoon of canola oil just to keep it nice and silky. And then never forget your rice vinegar for your rice. So we're going to put about a tablespoon in there. And it is coming to a boil nicely now. So it's almost time to put the rice in, but I want to show you what this hibiscus powder looks like. At a boil, full boil, and if you can see this right here, that is hibiscus powder. It's very floral and very tart tasting. Okay, I have 1 cup of basmati rice, and I'm just going to stir that in to my pot. Lower the heat to medium low. Cover and let simmer for, I didn't add my 1 teaspoon of chicken broth into the pan, so you have that chickeny flavor too. See what happens when you get to moving too fast? Okay, that's done. I think I have everything in there now. Yikes. Okay, so this is gonna go for about 15 minutes, just until the basmati rice has lengthened and softened and the water has been absorbed. So I'm not sure how much you know about hibiscus powder, if you know about hibiscus powder, or if you know what it's for, what it does. But hibiscus powder is basically a dried hibiscus flower that is ground down into a powder. I'm sure you could have surmised that on your own. However, it is very tart, like I said before, and it goes a long way, kind of like saffron, so it's fine. A little bit is enough. And I only put a teaspoon in there because I know how strong that powder is, and I don't want that to overtake the rice, but I want it to enhance my rice flavor. Basmati rice is already a floral rice, so just adding that little bit of hibiscus powder helps that out. Okay, so we're doing spice rubbed thick cut pork chops tonight. I put my cast iron skillet into the oven. As you know, I always preheat it in the oven before I start to cook it on the stove top, because I want that heat to be throughout and not just in one hot spot, because cast iron does get hot spots. Okay, so salt and pepper. I don't ever put salt and pepper in my spice mix because I want to keep those separate so I know exactly how much is going on to each pork chop. And I am using kosher salt today. I'm just going to give this nice coating. I can't flavor my pork chops later, so I'm going to do it now. And what I mean by that is that I know that I can't put more on later if, like, you know, the seasoning is just off a little bit. So you want to make sure to season generously going into the cooking process for your proteins. Okay, so we're going to just get the pepper done. All right, I don't know if you guys can see all of this. It doesn't appear that you can, so hang tight. Okay, that should be better. Okay, so we have seasoned with salt and pepper on one side, and I'm going to pat it in with one hand. So you always keep a wet hand and a dry hand. Typically, I use my dominant hand as my dry hand so that I can season better. You know, you just use that hand all the time, so why not, right? Okay, let's talk about our chili spice rub. I use this chili spice rub in almost every meat I cook. I use it in my brisket. I use it in my pork. Sometimes in my steak, just depending on what I'm looking for. So in here, I have about a tablespoon of each garlic powder, chili powder, onion powder, harissa seasoning. If you don't know what harissa seasoning is, it might be pronounced harissa. It's an African spice, nonetheless, and it's absolutely delicious. It's one of my favorites. I also have cayenne pepper. I went a little less on that. There's probably about a teaspoon of cayenne pepper in my spice rub, as well as about a tablespoon of ground sage. So again, salt, pepper, not in there. It's already on the meat. And I'm just going to season these generously because what I'm looking for is a crust, a spice crust on my pork. I did it one time and it was so good. Connor actually ate it and he really liked it. He almost took his dad's whole pork chop from him. So I'm going to season these generously so that I can create that same crust. And the trick here to doing this and to gather or to get that crust is to put it in the pan and leave it alone. Okay, so I'm just going to finish seasoning these on the other side and then we'll be ready to move on. Okay, you guys, I'm almost done. I just want to make sure that all sides are seasoned nicely. I usually just pick it up with what's fallen onto my either table, or in this case today I'm using paper towels, because before you start any of this you want to make sure to pat dry your meat so that way the spices stick to it and not come off with the liquid like the blood and juices and things like that. So I am just finishing up here with these ones, and then just going to finish these up, and then we're going to get them on the stove. And again, like I said, you guys, you want to make sure that you get a full coating of the spice rub and all your seasonings, so that way you get that crust built onto your pork chops or what other meat you're using. You can certainly do this on chicken or steak or whatever you want. We're just using good old pork chops tonight. And I cut these myself. We buy a pork loin, like a long, whole pork loin from the store, and we cut it up into chops and roasts and things like that, so that way we get the most out of our meat, and we know what cuts we're getting. Okay, these are all ready to go. I need to check and make sure that the cast iron skillet is ready. The rice is almost done, so we're going to check that in just a second, make sure it's tender. Okay, I turned my burner that I'm going to use for my pork chops on medium-high, and I am going to remove this pan because I'm going to use it in just a second. All right, that is nice and smoking, so this is ready to go. So I'm going to keep my oven on because I'm going to do the asparagus next. But for now, pork chops. Okay, so the first things first, you always want to put oil into your pan. I'm going to use vegetable oil. You can use whatever oil you want. And I'm going to put a little bit more than a tablespoon in just because I want to get almost like a fried sear on my meat. So while this is getting hot, which won't take but a minute, given that the pan's already hot. Yeah, there it goes. Okay. Now, a quick way to check if your oil's hot enough for your food, because when the food hits the pan, you want that sizzle to start immediately. If it does not, all your food is doing is absorbing oil. So A good way to do that is here. I'm going to lean over and get some water on my fingers. Just a very little bit, just so that they're wet. And if you can hear that sizzle, it's ready to go. So I'm going to take the largest chop first. Always put it in away from you. Drop it in the oil away from you. So that way there's no splatter and you don't get burns. All right, pork chops are in, and like I said, we're gonna leave them alone. I'm gonna clean all this, and then we're gonna get ready to do the asparagus. Okay, looks like the rice is done, and I'm just gonna check it really quickly. It's got this purpley hue to it from the hibiscus powder. So that's really nice. Okay, this is about ready. I just want to... I'm going to add a little bit of salt. And since I'm using kosher salt, you need to add a little bit more than you normally would of table salt. Just going to gently fold that in. All right. I'm going to taste it one more time to make sure that the salt did its job. Yes, it did. Okay. Rice is done. And I'm just going to set this aside. Okay, I can still hear my meat searing, so we are looking good. I'm going to remove the woody pieces of my asparagus. Now, you can cut these if you want to. Just take them in a bunch and cut off the woody ends of the asparagus so that you're not taking so much time to do it individually. However, sometimes you still get a woody piece or two. So what I like to do is just snap them right at the break point, and I'm going to just hold a little bit closer to you guys. The whiter pieces are the woody pieces. This will snap off right where it's supposed to, okay? So you just set that aside, and then you have your asparagus piece. Now I've already washed all of these, and I'm putting them onto a foil-lined rimmed baking sheet. We're going to season them right there on the pan, and we're going to get them into the oven. Asparagus is by far one of my favorite vegetables. I love it so much. Oh my gosh. I could eat it every single day and not get sick of it. Okay. And you can kind of feel where that wood ends, so it's going to be hard, and then the softer you get is the point where you want to break it. Oh, I think I did that one too much. Yes, I did. See what happens when you're not paying attention. All right. So now, I'm broke. Christ. So now I'm going to go ahead and check the meat. Yes, that crust though, for real. That crust is what I'm talking about. Now some of these don't have the full ring around them yet, so I'm going to flip this around a little bit. Sometimes when the oil will favor one spot of the skillet versus the other, so you just kind of have to move them around a little bit and pull that oil down. Okay, so I'll let these two sit for another minute or two before I turn them. It smells so good. Oh my, wow. Alright, I gotta hurry this along because you guys, I'm getting hungry. It smells so good in here right now. I literally almost just did like 2 or 3 pieces in a row so I could hurry because that's how hungry I am, and the sooner these are done, the sooner we eat. So like I said, the last time I made this, Connor decided that he wanted all of it. He ate most of his dad's pork chop, and he's not really to the stage where he eats meat yet because he's just, it's a texture thing, I think, for him. But he'll take bites of ours occasionally, and this was like a winner for him. And so tonight, I actually made him his own pork chop so that he can sit with me and Dad and have his own. That is a big block of wood there. All right. Okay. There we go. That looks so much better. Okay. So these have all been flipped on the other side, so they're going to go for like another 9 minutes, maybe less. In the meantime, I'm going to get the asparagus in the oven. Now, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of oil. Again, I'm using vegetable oil. Feel free to use whatever oil you prefer. I'm just going to kind of roll it around in the oil to coat. Okay. And before I lay them out, I'm going to put season them because I'm going to have to do that again. So rather than just laying them out and wasting your time, leave as is. Salt. Pepper. Okay. And finally, garlic powder. I use probably about a teaspoon of garlic powder on my asparagus. So we're going to roll them around, again, coat with all of the salt, pepper, garlic. Now you can go ahead and lay them out. If they don't all fit, I just lay them the opposite direction. So these ones are going to be parallel, these ones are going to be vertical, and the others will be like horizontal, because they don't all fit on my pans either. Okay. So I put these in a 425 degree oven for 7 minutes. I like mine crunchy but tender at the same time, and 7 minutes will get you that. Okay. You want to make sure that they are all in a single layer, nothing's overlapping, and they're good to go. I'm going to wash my hands because they're messy, and then we're going to put them in the oven. Okay, move this out of the way. 7 minutes. Okay, now that those are in the oven, I'm going to show you the beautiful crust that is on these pork chops. Look how beautiful that is. A nice crust. All of those seasonings. This is going to be so delicious, and I cannot wait to eat them. So these are almost done. The rice is finished, the asparagus is in the oven, and we are almost ready to eat. These are going to have to sit for a few minutes and rest. You don't want to tear into your meat right away, because what's going to happen is all the juices are going to roll out, and then it's going to become a dry pork chop. So you want to make sure that you let them rest on a cutting board for about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on their size, These littler ones can go for about 5 minutes, and then the larger ones will do about 10 minutes. Okay. If you want to see my rice, I'll show you my rice. Here it is in all its glory. It's nothing too fancy, but it tastes delicious. It tastes fancy. So I'm going to tell you, it's fancy because it tastes fancy. And I can see that these are not quite done yet. That one's looking nice. All right, you guys, these are done. I'm going to pull them off the heat and let them sit to rest for just a few minutes. And those beautiful pork chops. Gosh, I cannot wait to eat them. I'm going to set those aside. The asparagus will be done momentarily, and then we'll be ready to eat. Yes, perfection on a tray right here, or a baking sheet. 7 minutes did the trick, as it always does, at least with my oven. I think that this, look at that, it was already piece ready for me. I've got to be careful, it just came out. But these are perfection. I mean, oh my gosh, the perfect texture for asparagus. That is the best. That is the best asparagus in the world. Salt, pepper, garlic, a little bit of vegetable oil in a 425-degree oven for 7 minutes, and you've just put heaven in your mouth. You know, I mean, what could be easier than that? Okay. These still have a few minutes to go, so I need to give them some time to rest, and then we are going to taste them to make sure they're not overdone. Nothing I can do about it if they are, but I did tempt them and they seem just fine, so I think it'll be okay. Okay, you guys, it's been about 10 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and cut into my pork chop because I just want to have a bite. Don't tell anybody. Ooh. That spice rub. Wow. Sorry, I'm gonna need a minute. The spice dances on your tongue. It doesn't burn your mouth. It lets you know it's there. It's almost like it's putting out a warning. But it never makes good on its threat. It is so good. It makes my mouth water. I need to have more of this because it's so good. I'm gonna have some asparagus and some rice. And I cannot wait. So I'm going to plate. That rhymed. And like I said, you guys, this rice is so floral because not only is it basmati rice, but it's also got a teaspoon of hibiscus powder in it, which further makes it floral and just gives a tart taste to it that's like whatever. So good. Okay, so now I have my pork chop and my rice, and now I'm going to add my asparagus, and dinner is served. There you have it, guys. Spice rub pork chops, hibiscus infused basmati rice, and roasted asparagus. Oh, what can I say about roasted asparagus except for it's the best. All right, well, you guys, I'm gonna eat, and I thank you so much for coming. Like my video and subscribe to my channel. You can find me on Pinterest and Instagram at Rachel's_kitchen_table. And you guys try this at home. I guarantee you your family will love it, especially if they like a little bit of spice in their life. They're gonna love that pork chop. Super good. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. I'll be happy to answer. And you guys, thanks again. Happy eating. Good night.